Howdy y'all, welcome to the seated version of Elementally Intuitive Movement 101 here on Coffee. Since not everyone can do standing work, I wanted to provide seated options because we can still get a lot of mobilization from a seated position. And that's great because it's good to mobilize our bodies. The more that we move, the more we're able to move. So before we get started, I want to make sure that our feet are in a good position. We don't want our feet pointed in because that brings our knees in. We don't want our feet pointed out because that brings our legs out. We want our feet pointed forwards, which as we can see keeps our legs in a forward orientation. You start noticing your legs start to relax and they go out, just bring them back into center. If you want, you can lean back against the chair, or if you're able to, sit forward a little bit and hold yourself upright. Whichever works for you best, do what is best for you. As we're holding ourselves in our chair, we don't want to be slunched. We want to stay upright. So we want our heads up, our shoulders back, and our bellies holding up. Instead of being out and relaxed, we want them holding in, not completely holding in, but somewhere in between the two. And this week, we're focusing on our first foundation, which is breath. So as we're practicing our elementally intuitive movement, we want to be sure that we're inhaling through our nostrils. And we can exhale either through our mouth or our nostrils. But what matters most is to inhale through our nostrils. Why? Because our noses are filters. Also, our bodies produce nitric oxide in our noses, which is our first line of defense against space invaders like bacteria. And if possible, on the exhale, pause for a couple counts, because that's how we build up our carbon dioxide tolerance. It's carbon dioxide intolerance that signals to our bodies to take the next breath. The more breaths we take per minute, the more likely our bodies are to feel tension. The less breaths we take per minute, the calmer we are. So part of what we're wanting to do is train our nervous systems to recognize that we're safe because we're able to think about our breathing and consciously slow our breathing down. All right, to begin, level O. We put our hands together. They can be connected palm to palm, or back to back, or side to side, fingertip to fingertip. There's many different ways that our hands can be connected together, and that's part of what we're exploring, is the connections with our hands. Now, as we explore the connections with our hands, our arms are moved. So this is helping to mobilize our wrists, our fingers, our elbows, and our shoulders. The further away that our arms are from our bodies, the more gravity is affecting them. So if your arms get tired being far away from your body, then work closer into your center. The closer in that we are to our centers, the less we're going to feel that force of gravity pulling us, attracting us towards the earth. The less our muscles have to work against that force of gravity. To increase the challenge, when you're ready, bring your arms further out from your body. But listen to your body. Don't wear yourself out unnecessarily. If we keep our hands in close to our bodies, we're still getting that mobilization that helps to lubricate our joints, which is ultimately what we're looking at, is we're wanting to mobilize so that our joints stay mobile. How our body produces synovial fluid in our joints is through motion. If we don't move our bodies, then we don't produce the synovial fluid, and then our joints get stiff. Additionally, we want to be sure to stay well hydrated. Without enough water, then think about it, our tissues will be kind of stiff and sticky and gummy. So the combination of motion and water is what helps to sustain fluid motion. So think about it that way. If I want to sustain fluid motion in my body, I need to maintain motion and maintain my water levels. As we practice elementally intuitive movement, I want you to know that there's no right or wrong way to do it other than if it feels good, do that. If it doesn't feel good, don't do that. Each level has its own rules that we follow because by following those rules, it provides boundaries that set us free to explore within those boundaries. Level O, our boundary, is our hands being connected. And also our feet are planted on the ground. As we move to level 3, we're going to start picking up our feet, which is going to increase the challenge to the rest of our body. But right now, for the first 3 levels, O, 1, and 2, because level 3 is the 4th level, because our feet are planted. All we have to do is ensure that they're staying forward, our knees pointed forward instead of straying off to the side or straying into the middle as we're moving. And we're paying attention to our breath. Now, if you want to attempt to do what I'm doing, go for it. Or not. Do what you feel like doing. What's most important is that you stay in motion and that you're exploring, that you're being creative in your exploration. Be curious in your exploration. The more slowly we move, the more challenging it can be sometimes, because we're having to hold our body against the force of gravity. So remember, if your arms start to feel tired, bring them in. If they need to come down and rest on your body, that's okay. You can use your body to support you like an anchor as you're doing these movements. And then we're kind of moving into level 1, which is finding our centers. But because our hands are still connected, it's still level O. And so you see, I'm still moving my shoulders, I'm still moving my elbows, I'm still moving my wrists, my hands are still getting some movement, my fingers are getting movement. So we're still getting mobilization despite our hands, our arms being supported on our bodies. And then when you feel ready again, bring your arms back out, exploring your sphere. As you're exploring, you may notice that you'll drop your sphere of awareness when it comes to your breath. And that's okay. Part of what we're practicing is recognizing that we've dropped that sphere of attention and pick it back up again, put it back in rotation. This week, the only ball that we're keeping in rotation, really, that we have to think about is that breath ball. As we progress, we're going to focus on more spheres of awareness. But for this next 6 weeks, as we go through each level, we're just going to focus on that breath, keeping that breath ball in rotation. Most importantly. All right, and there we are. That's it for today. To get you started, keep practicing all week long. Every day, practice your level O for a few minutes. 3 minutes is fine. 5 minutes is great. If you can do more than that, do it. And if you can't, that's okay. Don't push your body beyond what feels comfortable for you. What matters most is to get started on this practice and start becoming familiar with the process of exploring your near sphere with your hands connected, exploring the different connections with your hands, and maintaining that breath ball in rotation, catching, noticing when we've dropped it, picking it back up again. Noticing if we feel fatigue from our arms working out, and honoring our bodies and working with our hands, supported by our bodies, because we're still receiving mobilization. So as long as we're still mobilizing those arms, even in this way, we're increasing the synovial fluid production in our joints, and we're doing it gently, which is what matters. It's important to be gentle with our bodies. Okay. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the first class, and I look forward to working with you next week as we progress to level 1, finding our centers, focusing on our breath as our foundation. See you later.